Over 6,000 delegates converged in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, for the 32nd edition of the African Export and Import Bank, that is Afreximbank's annual meetings. The bank is a Pan-African multilateral financial institution mandated to finance and promote intra and extra-African trade. For over 30 years, the bank has been deploying innovative structures to deliver financing solutions that support the transformation of the structure of Africa's trade, accelerating industrialization and intra-regional trade, thereby boosting economic expansion on the continent of Africa. In the midst of all this is a population that is not meeting its potentials to tap into this drive due to conflicts. And so this edition of the program is focused on conflict and gender-based violence. What is the policy direction? My name is Leah Katung-Babatunde. You're welcome. As always, we begin the business of the day from the trends table, and everything on that table is coming from the annual meetings of the Afreximbank.
Nigeria this week hosted the 2025 annual meetings of the African Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, themed Building the Future on Decades of Resilience. Vice President Kashim Shettima in a message said Nigeria will continue to work hand in hand with Afreximbank to deepen existing partnership and align more closely with Africa's development agenda.
We have accelerated strategic infrastructure, including the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway and the Eastern Rail Corridor, to improve regional connectivity. We have transformed our oil sector, introducing real-time tracking of exports and enhancing revenue assurance through the Petroleum Cargo Declaration Scheme.
Together, we're building the Kano-Maradi rail line, strengthening regional integration and activating the promise of the AFCTA. We are together building the African Medical Center of Excellence. We together build several projects across the continent. More importantly, we are focused on one of the most important things that would turn around our future and prosperity on the continent. We are together building transformational projects that will move and transform Africa's commodities and produce to finished and processed goods for use within the continent and outside the continent.
In his submission, Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Olayemi Kadeso, said institutional resilience remains a vital foundation for building strong and lasting African institutions as the continent deepens integration. While recognizing that institutional credibility is the anchor of effective monetary and financial policy, he said the bank's efforts are focused on restoring clarity, reinforcing consistency, and deepening confidence.
At the Central Bank of Nigeria, we've made this work a priority in the past year. We have focused on rebuilding trust with markets, with citizens, and with partners. We recognize that institutional credibility is the anchor of effective monetary and financial policy. Our efforts are focused on restoring clarity, reinforcing consistency, and deepening confidence, not as an end in itself, but as a foundation for a resilient future.
For the Afreximbank, strengthening African institutions, especially development finance institutions, is critical for sustainable development, democratic governance, and improved livelihoods.
Whilst diversifying the continent's export basket, efforts must also be directed at diversifying export destinations. We must improve regional trade through AFCTA. We need to forge new trading partnerships and strategic alliances to leverage our collective strength and resources.
Through the protocol on digital trade, we intend to harness this significant market, which is estimated to be over $712 billion by the year 2035, the digital economy of Africa, presenting opportunities for young entrepreneurs who are at the cutting edge of digital innovation, providing opportunities for investment in data centers, in the commercialization of data, movement of data across the continent, as well as opportunities for investment in digital public infrastructure.
The African Trade and Economic Outlook 2025 and the African Trade Report 2025 were presented by Dr. Yemi Kari, the Group Chief Economist and Managing Director, Research of the bank. Despite headwinds and shocks, he said the projections are good for the continent.
We must transform from merely surviving shocks to structurally transforming our economies. This means diversifying exports beyond primary commodities, deepening in industrial capacity and value addition, and investing in human capital, innovation, and infrastructure.
The 32nd edition of the meetings returned to Nigeria after decades, drawing over 6,000 participants. It will head to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis next year.
Next is our policy conversation for the day. Nigeria has joined the rest of the world to mark the International Day for the Elimination of Sexual Violence in Conflict. But this is not the only challenge facing women and children who are the most vulnerable during conflicts, even right here in Nigeria, with the rising number of women and children displaced and often battered. What does the future hold for them? Dr. Erisa Danladi, Executive Director, Motherhen Development Foundation, and the National Coordinator, published What You Pay Nigeria, joins me for this conversation. She's presently the representative of civil society organizations on the NAITI board and the GBV co-chair Gombe State Technical Working Group. Together, we shall be looking at women, children, and armed conflicts in Nigeria. It's nice to have you join me for this conversation, Erisa.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So for starters, and generally speaking, when we talk conflicts, right, what are the immediate effects on victims?
It affects us differently. And I'm going to talk about it for us commemorating, since we're talking about women. Conflict affects women and children differently from others. While conflict is more emotional for women, it is more devastating for women. It also affects them directly. Now they tend to lose their husbands who are in the war front. They tend to lose their children who they can't carry all along. So you see, affecting them, all this psychologically brings down the woman emotionally. It affects the entirety of her being, from her household to whatever that she holds sacred around her, to her children, to her relatives, everybody around her. I'm from Gombe State, and then I walk around the northeast. Borno State is one of those areas, and Yobe State that will be working. When this Boko Haram insurgence started, and we were there to work with our women, because at that period I was doing a project with the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, and then we had these women, we can't even find them come to talk to us. They are scared, they are not sure of the next moment, they are so out of place. Why? Because it hits her differently. If it's a man, the only thing he cares for is to ensure that he goes to the war front and he wins. He's not remembering that he has a wife or children or something. But this particular woman would look for where her children are, would look for where is my husband, where are my brothers, where are my sisters. She worries about everything. In fact, some of the stories we also had from those times where me coming because I need shelter, I need some succor, and then you want to take advantage of me before you give me access.
We've worked in this space, and there's something I'm really concerned about, and you've mentioned it, the mental state of a lot of this.
Survivors.
Yes, we look at them, and who takes care of that?
You know, the woman, God has so wonderfully made her to also adjust to some situation. But I tell you, in this kind of situation, it's not easy to adjust to a psychological, mental, psychosocial, issues. it's not her making. It's just the way the things happen. Nobody takes care of her. Sometimes we remember and say, oh, they might be going through a lot. Let's go and give them some psychosocial support. What do we bring as psychosocial support? We'll just sit down with her and interact for just those hours and minutes. And then we're gone. And the next thing, before she closes her eyes and wake up, she's thinking through all that had happened before her eyes, whether her son being killed or her husband killed before her, or her children missing, or her child being raped before her. A lot of things go through her mind. We don't have anything than to keep coming back to her to be able to come out of it. So at some point, what we did was to say, okay, let's even cluster them in the camps where they are, and then we keep coming to teach them a lot of things just to take their minds off it. But when we go back, what happens to them? But I tell you, some of them, it's not easy because it keeps coming back. Like this one, she's an elderly woman, and she just told me, oh, Erisa, I just lost all I had before my eyes. And each time I close my eyes to sleep, I can't sleep because it keeps coming back to me. So who is going to help this woman? The only thing we do is to keep encouraging them, do the ones we can do, give the support that we can do on their health and all that. But you can't do for everyone because there are lots of people going through a whole lot differently. Everybody is going through their own issues separately and differently. And you won't know what is in there until they open up. And most of them don't open up because they see you and they are not sure. Do I want to open up? And that's why we encourage the safe space for them, even in those communities where you sit down with them and they could share whatever burden they have. And maybe sharing, we know, can also reduce to some extent. What we do was to just give them the safe space. We call it the safe space for women or girls, where they come around. And each day we come, we vent out what we feel around and inhale some healing or inhale some forgiveness. Because again, it's inside and it's something we want to see happen. And I think we had sometimes, I think 2013, where we have the UNSCR 1325, which also was supporting women. It's a legal framework where it's supporting women to be able to also have some healing from it and then have some succor, even in their camps, as it were.
How does it affect somebody who is out of their comfort zone and somehow they're living in camps without the ability to return to where they're coming from or somewhere close to that?
It affects our dignity. It affects our self-confidence, because normally you're in your home, I don't know how to say it. You know, you just manage your thing and yourself. Now you're there facing the unknown, and then your dignity even as a woman. So you are in the camp, exposed. You have a lot of people where you go to take your bath or wherever you go to ease yourself. You know, you don't have this just you within your space. It's not your space. You're just there, not sure of the next day or the next action. Depending on it is what you get that you live on, you know. But what we have, and then over the years, we also recommend our host communities, like I have in my state. So instead of us to have them in the camp, because there are a lot of things happening in the camp, from getting raped, from not having good hygienic place, because there are lots of them, and from a lot of things happen. But when you integrate them in the community, it's easier, and then they can integrate and rebuild and bring back themselves around the communities, because now, and the stigma is always reduced. When you put us in the camp, we're stigmatized already. They are in the camp, oh, those ones, they lost it, you know. But when you bring them out and have them in the host communities tend to reduce it, because they're in a house, right? And then people are minding their business, and that is encouraging them to also go fend for themselves. They are not waiting for aid or for some handouts or cash transfers to be sent to them. If you're in the camp, you're not encouraged to want to fend for yourself, because you know, sure how, anyhow, I will have
will come and
some
bring
meal.
something.
Some people will sympathize, some people will bring. It weakens one's mind to be able to go out and fend for themselves. And that's why we're now encouraging for the camps. We better have host communities where they're in the communities, they learn trade. Even in the camp, we go teach them some vocational skills. But they are in the camp. So if they make those skills or they have them, what would they make of? Because who is buying, who is selling there? So they are the same people. So for us, a lot happen when you are in camp. But we are also saying that, oh, now can we reduce when we have conflict issues and then we have like the Benue people now. All of them, we run to a camp. Can we begin to integrate those communities that are safe? We'll be able to integrate people there and they'll be able to start relaxing. But when you keep them in the camp, there's this, you know, the fear is still there. But when they are integrated back to communities, it's reduced.
Having them back into the communities is what a lot of us would wish to have. But ultimately, are you having any sort of preventive conversations with those at the authority level, the policymakers?
For us, prevention starts from early warnings, when you have early signs of it. When you have the hearsay, that's when we begin to prevent. But fortunately, this is how we find ourselves. Our leaders are not listening well enough to be able to mitigate it when it's still, to nip it at the bud when it's still just a dot on it, up until it escalates. This is not the first time. I take Benue for an example. This is not the first time we have these issues or conflict around Fulani and the indigenous people. What have they done to be able to reconcile that, right? So that to be able to nip it when it was still just small. So for us to start thinking of prevention, that's where you begin to think of it. That is our own call each time we have opportunity for the government to listen, to make it not escalate. You know, the prevention would come naturally. You've prevented it. You don't need it to start looking for how to mitigate, or sorry, how to be able to get them into camps and get them. No, you already heard about it. You're looking at it closely, and then you try to do it. How do we do it? From our community leaders, from the community people. We know ourselves. When you have a new person come into your community, my great-grandfather then was a leader in my community. They come to our house to report themselves or introduce themselves and say, oh, we're here to pass to this place, but we're going to be staying for this. Please allow us and give us some shelter. They do that. I remember I was young then, and then he will call the community people and let them know those people are coming. So you see, with this kind of system again, we need to go back to utilize our traditional systems, not just utilize our traditional system for political things, but also to be able to safeguard our community. Yes. So at the end of the day, that was a system that was working. You find little or less of this conflict. So can we go back to our traditional ways to some extent in the community? That would prevent. That would mitigate to a large extent. Because you see, most of these issues emanate from the community. They are not in town like that. So can community system, the traditional system, go back to that? Can government encourage that? You report what you see and ensure that whenever you come to a new community, go and register your presence. And then you find out that you won't have influx of people that are not wanted around the community. That's one. Two, we also need for us to be able to see that our borders too, because I'm coming from the Northeast, so I understand how porous our borders are. And then most of them, sometimes we look at them and say, oh, are they Nigerians at all? Right? So can we also look at all this? It's an all-encompassing thing. It is not a one-off thing. And we need a system that should work.
Okay, I'm glad you talked about the borders. And clearly, some of these non-state actors are not Nigerians at all. And for people like me and you, when we see them, we know them. We know those who are foreigners even before they speak when we see them. But for other people from other parts of the country, they don't know. So in a way, I would say we are complicit because we see them and we don't report. We take them, oh, they are our brothers, because the borders are open. So what will be that citizen role now in ensuring that we point out these people don't belong here? Who are they? How do we know they are genuine people? Despite there's an ECOWAS protocol that allows them to come in, are they carrying those papers? In fact, are they members of the ECOWAS community in the first place?
So those are the questions. And I tell you for free that some of us would ask these questions, but because the system is not working, so you won't have those answers. If you have a system that is working, we will not bother about our borders because we have already officers taking charge of those borders. So but you have borders where it's very porous, like I said, and someone comes and then they know that we can shake hand and pass, you know. I know because I've been on this during the conflict. We're doing the Women Political Empowerment Project around the country, especially in the Northeast, for us to have more representation. And then I understand that when you come to Iboda, you present your national ID card. So but was that a sustainable one? No, because if you shake hand, I forgot it in my bag. I didn't ever. It's not you forgot it. You don't just have it. Maybe you're not even a Nigerian, but you have changed some naira from the border, and then you could just shake hand, and then they'll ask you to come out. When you come out, I think you pay 1,500 or so. I can't remember how much then they were collecting per individual. So how would that work? So they can allow anybody that have 1,500 or so to pass the border. It's not about the president, about even us being true to ourselves and being patriotic to Nigeria. And then those of us that are there that saw that you gave 1,500 and pass, what are we doing? Do we even have a voice? Can our voice count at that point to say, oh, no, officer, this is not right. This man is not a Nigerian and he doesn't have any evidence of being a Nigerian. So can you take him aside and do the right thing so that we can at least have some peace, at least have some security?
We've heard a lot of instances where women would go, or girls would go and say, oh, I've been raped, I've been molested, and this reporting, the officers they are reporting to will say, are you the first? Or a woman, do you want to embarrass the family?
How do you prove it?
And yes, and all manner of things. Now, is it something that can be addressed to ensure that people who do these crimes or this offense, who take these offensive actions against women, children, get to really answer? Because it looks like people are getting away with bad behavior, and that is why it persists.
Yes, and then I want to, at this point, commend the Ministry of Women Affairs, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, for ensuring that GBV issues and cases are now documented. And now also we have a register, a name and shame register and all that. So these are steps towards ensuring that at least when we have these issues, they are being documented and they are also being prosecuted. Over the time and over the years, and it's still done, only that way is work in progress. When you bring your issues like the instance you've just mentioned, it's not been considered. One, we feel it's lack of knowledge, some of the officers. Aside being a patriarchal system that we have in Nigeria, and we feel if they're equipped with some knowledge, they're equipped with some effect, some impact of how GBV affects the community. Even him that is there, he doesn't know what his child is, his wife is. He doesn't know how and who will take advantage of them. So but when they have this knowledge, they'll be able to ensure that they protect it. So, and that's why we keep ensuring that they have some training around it to understand it. The after effect of what you're doing or what you've done is what we're looking at for. For us, ensuring that we get the perpetrators and bring them to book is what we're working towards. And I assure you that most of the states, I think almost all, have the VAB laws in their state, which is protecting and also ensuring that they prosecute. And we're also working to ensure that we have a SAC centers in most of the states. SAC centers are sexual assault referral centers. In that SAC center, you have the police, you have the psychosocial counselor, you have the nurses and the doctors. So it's a system where we also see an integration. So you're not going away when they examine and prove that she was raped. You have the Ministry of Justice being part of it. You will face the law, why she undergoes some psychosocial support and the likes of it. Another thing again is also it's a campaign we've been doing all this while and we're still on it. So we call it the behavioral change communication. So where we have community people understand the effects or the impact of being raped around or even violence, right? And take up those challenges. That's the community leaders. We are not leaving the men and the boys because they need to understand.
To point that out because we also have men and boys who are victims.
Yes, so we're not leaving them there. That's why it's gender-based. We're not even leaving them out of even the campaign because we feel they are champions. They should protect us like the community and the religion have placed in their hands to do. So we need to talk to them. We need them to understand how to protect us, even with the boys. So we also, it's a holistic thing now. Boys, men, come, let's talk. Let's also have a voice. Let's have an understanding on how we can contribute to ensure that this is reduced to the minimal in our communities. So it's something we're working and happy that we have some support around. We appreciate those organizations that stood out to say, oh, we're going to get our monies to do that. Because it's a menace in our communities. How do we ensure we curtail it? We cannot sit down and fold our hands. Erisa alone can't do it. Leah alone can't do it. We all need to come together. Our community and religious leaders need to keep reminding our men in the mosques, in the church, of how to and what to.
Sincerely, thank you, Doctor, for making our time for this conversation and for sharing your thoughts with me.
Anytime. These are issues we're happy you're bringing to the public, and we hope that this particular episode would go to where it should be so that they would know that we need our system to be strengthened and we need our people to be protected the more. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We move on to our education series, Simplify This, and from there we take you to the commodities markets. And it is on that note that we invite you to log on to our sister website, www.marketnigeriatv.com. We have all the details of market and more there for you. And also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is at Saban Media Services. We have this episode and every other one available for you to leave your comments, questions, and suggestions because we need them to serve you better. Until we come your way again same time next week, my name is Leah Katung-Babatunde, and I say God bless Nigeria.